When we're live.
Live!
Hi, Cindy here with Create Your Own Luck and Love, and we are here today with, the last speaker of the day, but last but not least, we've saved the best for last for today. And, we're talking, obviously if you're returning or you're new, this is a series called Level Up Your Love Life. Remove the blocks that are standing in the way of you opening your heart up to receive the love that you desire and deserve in your life. So I am welcoming my dear friend, PJ Dixon. We actually now live in the same town, and we haven't gotten to see each other because I moved here and then COVID hit, and then, here we go. So here we are. So I, you are a returning guest of ours, and, PJ, I know that you're, an international transformational coach, speaker. You have such a inspiring story. And whenever I think of you, I think of you are like never give up and perseverance. And you really embody that. And with such a positive attitude of, grace, courage, and, connection along the way. I feel like many people could learn from you, PJ. So is there anything that you care to share about, your background, just to share a little bit for?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much. I'm really honored to be here. I get super excited anytime I get to be with you because you're super wise, kind, loving, caring, and I just love the way you express like a gentle nature and make everyone feel safe and nurtured in your presence. So it's an honor for me to be back, and it's always an honor for me to be in your presence. So thank you very much. And to get in to answer your question, the one thing that I should tell people is I'm a little dude in a wheelchair. Why is that important? Because first of all, you're going to see me move around really in funny ways. So you're going to be like, why does that dude move funny? But also because when people talk about my persistence and the fact that I don't give up and I don't quit, excuse me, my disability was expected to take my life at 7. I turned 53 in a couple of weeks. What? 53? 52. I turned 52. I look pretty good for 52. I turned 52 in a few weeks. I've lived 45 years-ish, if I do the math right, ish longer than I was supposed to. Why is that important? Because that's 45 years that I've had the chance to really refine the ability to control my thinking and to choose to live and to choose to live in a thriving life. I jump out of planes, indoor skydive, aqua jetpacking. I used to play wheelchair sports. I'm a watercolorist. I'm a 10th degree martial arts black belt. I train, I travel around the world. Like, I'm just really, really fortunate to live the way that I live, or I'm really, really skilled. And I'd say more likely I'm skilled. Why? Because it takes effort to make your life as beautiful as you want it to be. And that's why you're here listening to this summit, this online show, because you recognize that there might be something out there that you can learn and apply to your life to make your life exactly what you want, to really find and nurture that extraordinary love.
Thank you for that. Woo-hoo. It's like I feel like it's the end of the day party with you.
Dance party.
All we need is the music and the.
I love to dance. In 2019, so we're currently in the pandemic, right? But in March of 2019, 2 years ago, I happened to be in Vegas with my business coach. And then I went to another event after that. And then I went out that night on a Saturday night with some friends in the middle of March. And 2 days later, I got sick. And why I'm telling you that is because those 2 days, those last 2 days, were the last 2 days after I went out with my friends that I had the physical strength that you knew me to have. In 2019, in March, I lost about 85% of my physical strength. And that means that I have a personal care assistant more often. That means I can't push my wheelchair as easily. That means that I can't stop my wheelchair hardly at all. That means that I struggle to roll over. I can't dress myself like I used to be able to. I can't undress myself. So, there's no problem with me being a creeper. But the thing is that despite that loss, I chose to live in a way that I'm still excited and happy. And I thought about this morning. I was like, man, I really miss dancing because I can't dance as well as I used to because I'm not as strong as I used to because the curvature of my back is more severe. But I still like to dance. So you find a way, right? You find a way, and that's always the nature of the spirit. You always find a way, and it's the same with extraordinary love. If you're really open and receptive, you begin to let go of the things that don't matter, and you start to create space for the things that do matter. The real process of finding extraordinary love for yourself, for other people within a romantic relationship is letting go. The secret is always letting go. The more you can let go of, the more you can receive.
So yeah, so let's start there. Let's talk about the, maybe a process of letting go, because I think, a lot of times if you're watching or listening, you might be looking for some sort of a process, right? Like, okay, if I do this, then I do this. And granted, I'm a fan of processes and processes that support you, but I also feel like there's a balance to that.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on, if someone has had a hard time letting go of control, letting go of what it should look like, or, how to, get into a space where you're opening up to real partnership. How, what would you recommend?
Well, I think that there's a couple layers into what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, letting go, and then letting go to create space for a partnership. I think we're talking about two different things. Now, they're going to be very, very similar, right? But you could be letting go of something your boss said to you. You could be letting go of something that happened when you were, 15. You could be letting go of frustration or disappointment that something didn't work out that we want. Like, I had to let go of the fact that my life is not the same as it used to be, right? But I'm still happy. Why? Because it's a conscious choice. Okay. So I suggest that we live our life as an art form, and I use the word art as a metaphor, as an acronym for the way I make decisions and the way I live my life. A stands for awareness, right? You first and foremost want to be aware of what's going on in your mind. There's the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And I like to make a very clear distinction between those. We could also talk about the subconscious mind, longer discussion and conversation. But the unconscious mind is going to give you all of these like fears and worries and doubts and things that you can't do and limiting beliefs. Why? Because it wants to protect you. It doesn't care whether or not you're living a delicious life. It cares whether or not you could actually hurt yourself or be hurt or be embarrassed or get your heart broken. It cares about those things. So that alone, the simple awareness in my art acronym, the simple awareness allows you to then identify how you're being controlled or whether or not you're making decisions for yourself, right? So if the unconscious mind is making decisions for you, you're subject to what it's coming up with versus you making the decisions, you, the conscious you. I believe there's only two kinds of people in the world. There's free people and there's slaves, right? So if you are in reaction to what your unconscious mind is doing or saying, or the fears it's throwing out there, if you're in reaction, reaction is a slave action. So if you have a trigger that anytime somebody is around you that you're attracted to, and you're like, oh, I'm going to get quiet and I get nervous because what if I say something and then I look silly, or I'm going to get involved in this relationship, and then what's going to happen is the same thing that always happens. I'm going to get involved, and then they're going to see who I am, or they're going to say something dumb, and I'm going to get angry, right? See, these are all reactions to the way that your unconscious mind might be thinking. But the option is to respond. A response is a conscious choice. So when you're aware of what your mind is thinking, and I say this all the time, think your thoughts. Don't let your thoughts think you. Think your thoughts. Don't let your thoughts think you. What I mean is consciously choose what you're going to think. Be aware of what's going on in your mind. Be aware of what's going on in your emotional state. Be aware of what's going on in your body. Are you experiencing tension, or are you open and relaxed? And then the R stands for responsibility, right? So if I'm aware of what's going on inside of me, now it becomes my responsibility to choose, do I want more of this, or do I want less of that? Do I want to open up and expand and create space and connection, or do I want to shut down and run, right? And notice that I'm saying, do I want, do I want, do I want? This is a conscious choice. Remember, a reaction is a slave action, but if you're being responsible, it's the ability to respond. And by having the ability to respond, that means that you have choice. You recognize you have choice, and you are acting to make a choice. When you act to make a choice, those options are freedom. So you're choosing to be free by taking radical responsibility, or 100% responsibility for how you're thinking and feeling. The outside world can do whatever it wants to us. Other people can say whatever they want to us. But the more we let go, the more we become aware of how we move internally, and whether or not we're thinking our thoughts or our unconscious mind is thinking us, then we get to decide, take responsibility. We get to decide how we want to respond in a particular situation. Now I'm free. Now I'm free, because no matter what you say to me, I can choose how I want to experience what you've said and how I want to respond, or how I want to engage with you. And then the third step in my art form is technique. So now that I'm aware of what's going on, right, and know that, okay, my mind is thinking this, okay, and I don't particularly like it, and so it's my responsibility to make a change. So then what is the technique that I'm going to use to make a change? There's so many different techniques that we can use, one of which is simply asking yourself, do I like how I'm feeling right now? Oh, I'm a little nervous. I don't really want to be nervous. Okay, so what is the technique that you're going to use to shift the nervousness, right? What if you're a little frustrated or upset and you don't seem to be able to open up? What is the technique you're going to use to let go so you can open up, right? What if you are just practicing something new and being courageous and holding somebody's vision across the room, instead of you looking at them and being like, oh, he's cute, and then looking away, right? What if you're like, no, I'm going to hold the vision. I'm going to hold the gaze. Okay, what's the technique for getting yourself to hold that gaze in a way that conveys the message that you want it to convey? The message of confidence, or hey, why don't you come over and talk to me? Or I'll meet you at the bar. Let's go and get a drink, right? What is the technique you're going to use that's going to get you there? And there's so many delicious ones that I love to talk about. I'd be happy to share some if you want.
Yeah, that was my next question. So you read my mind, PJ.
I did. So all kinds of different things. Okay. So listen, let's look at a couple of different scenarios. All right. Let's look at, you're not feeling very, very confident. You're angry, you're hurt, you're upset, you're disappointed. So one of the very first things that I like my clients, when I work with one-on-one clients, or I teach even from stage, is I want you to recognize that emotions, specifically the negative ones, the positive ones do the same thing, but negative emotions I want you to think of as a messenger, okay? The negative emotion is actually carrying a message for you. So when you're feeling nervousness or fear or worry or self-doubt or anger or hurt or sadness, those are actually carrying a message. And if you don't like how those feel, and I'm pretty sure you don't, I know I don't, then why don't we unpack the message? And think about it like this. Think about this metaphor. Your emotion is simply an email. Ding, you've got mail. Meaning, ding, I feel a particular emotion. I'm aware, right? Okay, my responsibility is to ask myself, do I like how I'm feeling right now? Yes or no? If I don't like how I'm feeling right now, then I get to ask myself a secondary question. What would I rather feel instead? Well, I'd rather feel excited, enthusiastic, open, receptive, kind, calm, patient, gentle, whatever those emotions are, okay? Now you can ask yourself that that second question, or you can simply go, nope, I don't like how I'm feeling right now. So PJ said we need to unpack the emotions. What does that mean? It simply means if you have an email that has an attachment, you download the attachment so you can look at what that information is. So when you have an emotion like sadness or hurt or worry or loss or fear or even anger, if you start to go, okay, well, what does this mean to me? What is the message here? What is this emotion trying to convey to me? Is it telling me that I don't like to be spoken to that way? Does it say, hey, that feels like it's challenging my authenticity and my integrity, my identity, and I feel like I want to defend myself? Is it saying, um, hey, the emotion is nervousness. That's the email. The emotion is the email, right? But what's the nervousness? What's the attachment to the nervousness? Well, the nervousness is that I'm afraid I'm going to look silly. Oh, okay. So there's another emotion there, right? So, well, if I'm afraid I'm going to look silly, what's that fear? What does that mean? What's the message there? I want this person to like me. Oh, okay. So I want this person to like me. So now I'm changing who I'm becoming. So I'm becoming a little bit more fearful. So there's two ways that there's there's arguably three, but for the sake of our conversation, there's two ways that your confidence gets compromised. One, somebody challenges your identity, right? And if you think or believe that somebody might actually think, oh, you're kind of goofy, I don't really like you, and you're like, actually, I'm really like super kind and loving, I'm just nervous around you, then you're feeling like your identity might be challenged. And then if you're feeling like you're maybe a people pleaser or you're trying to defend yourself and you don't like to have to defend yourself, you're compromising your integrity because you're like, I don't like to behave like this. This isn't who I want to be. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not compromising your integrity. You're checking in with yourself and saying, okay, well, what does this fear mean? Well, I really want this person to like me, and I'm afraid they're not going to like me. Okay, so am I afraid that I might compromise my identity, my integrity? Might I do something different than actually be who I want to be? And if your answer is yeah, like I always put on this show when I'm with somebody instead of being who I am. Now, listen, being who you are doesn't necessarily mean, yeah, I'm feeling sad and frustrated today, so I'm just going to be sad and frustrated. No, remember, be aware of that. Take responsibility for how you're feeling and ask yourself, how would I rather feel instead? And change that to the better portion of you and let people see the best part of you. I'm not saying act and be somebody different. I'm saying release the things that don't feel good and open up to the juicy, delicious, authentic you, the real part of you. And it doesn't mean that you can't say, yeah, I'm kind of having a tough day, but notice I'm just talking about it versus like wallowing in it, just losing myself to it. So unpack those emotions and really see what the meanings are behind them. What are the messages? What is your unconscious mind saying to you? What are your fears, worries, doubts? Are there things in there that you're like, hey, you know what? I don't like that. I don't want to behave that way. That's counter to the way I believe in treating people. So the message in that particular case is I believe in treating people with kindness and love and compassion. And so while I'm frustrated and angry with the way I see this person treating me or somebody else, I recognize why I'm frustrated. Okay, I'm frustrated because I don't like I don't like that, and I don't want people to be treated like that. So the message is, continue to treat people in a really good way, and also stand up for people that I think deserve to be stood up for. So the more we can unpack the emotions, the more we can feel or see what's actually being told to us. So look at that as an opportunity to look at the wisdom, knowledge, insight, um, lessons inside of each emotion. What is that emotion sharing with you, talking to you about? It's a messenger. Have a conversation with it. What do you mean? What are you sharing with me? What should I look like? Look at. What am I not looking at? What can I look at? How can I talk about this? The moment I start to unpack my emotions, literally, it's almost like the emotion drains out of the bottom of my feet or out the bottom of my hands. It just goes from the top of my head, just drains all the way out my body. As soon as I go, oh, okay, the emotion is just a messenger. What's the message, right? As soon as I do that, the emotion goes away, so I can download the message. It's fascinating, fascinating.
Right. So it's funny. Right before you said that, my question was, well, sometimes emotions just need to process through your body because they are meant to be processed, and a lot of times, and many people will not process emotions. And what I'm hearing you say too is to be curious about them. And then, what is the message for me? And continuing to ask those questions within that space helps to process the emotion.
Yeah, and look, curiosity is quintessential, right? Legitimately become curious about, hey, what's going on here? And it's the processing. What is processing? Usually, if you're ruminating and you're stuck in that loop, ruminating, I can't stop thinking about this, it's because you're letting the unconscious mind do the processing. That's not the unconscious mind's job. The unconscious mind's job is to remember, recall, and reveal what's inside, remember what's happening, reveal to you and recall the things that have happened. So when it comes time to reveal to you, the conscious you, what's bothering it, right, or what's bothering you, I say it because I make a distinction. What's bothering it, then you, the conscious you, can be responsible for resolving the issue. See, there are 4 R's that the brain is responsible for: remembering, recalling, revealing, the unconscious mind. But it's the unconscious mind's job to reveal what's bothering it. It's the conscious mind's job to resolve the issue. So it's the conscious mind's job to process primarily on a conscious level. And when we don't consciously process, then the unconscious mind gets stuck in that loop of trying to ruminate and trying to resolve the issue itself. So when we let our conscious and our unconscious minds have a dialogue and become best friends, then the unconscious mind reveals the issue, helping then for the conscious mind to resolve the issue. And that's the process of actually processing consciously. And what are you processing? I'm processing the meaning and the emotion. Just exactly what I was just talking about. You're literally just processing, what does this emotion mean to me? Why am I feeling this? What is it trying to convey to me? So you and I are on the exact same page. I just want people not to let their unconscious mind process, because that's just ruminating. And it just takes forever. Consciously process. Journal, write, talk to somebody, talk to yourself in the mirror. The more you talk it out and look at it and explore it, that level of curiosity, the more you'll find that you throw up the hook. You can find what the hook is that you swallowed. The hook meaning what I believed in. If you're fishing and a fish gets overexcited, it swallows a hook. You can't pull the hook out or you destroy the hook or destroy the fish. You have to basically cut the line and put the fish back and hope that the fish will heal around that. But with us, when we swallow a belief of something that somebody has said to us, and we start to believe that whatever they've said is true, like you're not worthy, and we start to believe it, the more we process, the more we're able to throw up that hook and able to identify, oh, that's the hook that I swallowed. That's what I believed. That's not true. And as soon as we get it out, and as soon as we're able to see it, we feel better. Immediately we feel better. Maybe we're not perfect, but 90+% better.
Yeah. So how so when you, and this is all really great information that I hope the watchers and listeners out there are really absorbing and taking this, because really it's like your emotions don't control you, right? You know, your thoughts and the feelings that you have, they don't control you. And that's the subconscious mind, right? What you're sharing. And what you get to do is then explore, okay, what's underneath that? Like, what's really going on? What's really triggering me? What's really making me upset? And, getting to that and, really then giving yourself a new message, then the real message, right?
Yeah, I would add to what you're saying.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I would add to what you're saying. What I would say is that I make a distinction between the unconscious and the subconscious. So the subconscious is this, like, on a conscious level, you're like, I feel something's bothering me. Like, I just feel something, like in my guts. I just feel weird. Like, what is that? What's bothering me? Right? That's the subconscious mind sort of percolating and saying, hey, are you listening out there? There's something that wants to come out, that wants to be revealed. The unconscious mind is something that we have to really go and explore. We have to really entice to come out and bring us the information. And so I like to change with my clients, instead of saying, well, how are you feeling, right? Don't ask yourself, how am I feeling? Instead, ask yourself, well, why are we feeling this? What are we feeling? How are we feeling? We being me, the conscious me, you, the conscious you, and your unconscious mind, right? So how are we feeling right now? What are we feeling? And the reason I say that is because then what you're doing is incorporating the unconscious mind and giving it a voice to it. Because unless the unconscious mind has a voice, then it's just going to continue to percolate up negative emotions. And that doesn't help you unless you start to unpack those. So start by asking yourself, like, okay, well, how am I feeling? What are we feeling? Why are we feeling this? Do I like how, we're feeling right now? Right? And you heard me say earlier, do I like how I'm feeling right now? That's just a very, like, just surface level question, which is, it's acceptable to ask because that's on a conscious level. On a conscious level, do I like how I'm feeling right now? No? Okay, what would I like to feel instead? But if I'm exploring, if I'm going deep, which is what you're suggesting, right, in that exploration, I want to say, well, okay, hold on. What are we feeling? Why are we feeling this? And I get real close to the mirror and I talk to the mirror real close because I don't want to be disturbed by anything that might be behind me. I want to see my face. I want to see if my eye twitches. I want to see if I'm grimacing. I want to really be present. And then when I talk to the mirror and I talk it out with my conscious and unconscious mind dialoguing, then I get about 85% out. And that's when I go to the journal and I say, okay, let me just write whatever else is stream of consciousness. And inevitably, that's when I throw up the hook and I'm like, there it is. There's the culprit. There's the thing that I came to believe. Because somebody programmed you directly or indirectly. Somebody said something to you or did something in your presence, or you observed something and you believed something in that moment. A belief was formed. And then your unconscious starts thinking thoughts, which then creates an emotion, which then causes you, influences the actions you take and the outcome that you have or the results. And so when you are thinking your thoughts, that's conscious. But when you are observing how your mind is just overwhelming you, that's your unconscious mind. And that's when it's not, that's when it's in control and not you. And that's when you want to make sure you get control back quicker. So one last thing about this is don't wait until it's overwhelming because then it's hard to reverse. David Goggins, the former Navy SEAL, talks about winning the war in the morning. What he means by that is when you wake up in the morning, do all of the difficult things while your willpower is still strong. I borrow his term, winning the war in the morning, to reference emotionally. As soon as you start to feel something that doesn't feel good to you, immediately make the shift, immediately be aware of it, immediately take responsibility for how you want to feel, immediately enact a technique that's going to shift how you're thinking and consequently feeling, or believing and then consequently thinking and consequently feeling, because that will take you further in every relationship, including the one with yourself, than virtually anything else. The quicker you can catch that, the better. If you let that emotion roll over, if I don't catch it in the morning, metaphorically speaking, and I wait until it's lunch or dinner or midnight snack, I'm overwhelmed by all of the sadness and frustration and anger and fear and confusion. But if I catch it early and I go, oh, hold on, I feel myself getting kind of funky. What is that? What are we feeling? Why are we feeling that? That's when I'll start to dig into it. That's when I shift from I to we. Does that make sense? Did I
Yeah.
go too much? I just
Yeah.
get excited. I literally want to give everything every single time I talk.
I love you. Yeah. So it makes sense. So you're initiating both the subconscious and conscious mind and, bringing it together. Essentially, you're integrating the experience so that there's freedom that can be created so that someone is not in the loop, because I see this a lot when it comes to, um, you know, something not happening the way you think it's supposed to happen, and or getting ghosted, or a relationship ending, whatever the scenario that transpires. Then if you can take the time to integrate the conscious and subconscious mind, and get really clear about what's underneath it, then it becomes easier to change the emotion. When you can change the emotion, you can actually change your life,
Yes.
and then really get the lesson, get the experience you were supposed to have, and then open your heart to really receive love. And I find that, it can be so easy for the unconscious mind, and let me know what comes up for you around this, to, bargain or put roadblocks in the way of you creating the experience that your heart really wants to experience, which would be freedom, love, connection, right? And it could be anything. It could be like, well, you know, I don't know if I want to date in this town. I might move, or whatever it is, right? Or well, um, it's like the conscious and subconscious mind can do that, or oh, I don't know if he's the one. So then it can keep you from really fully committing to that journey, which then we could go a whole nother conversation.
And let's be really careful about that last one, right? Ooh, I don't know if he's the one. And here's why I want you to be really careful, because that could be a trick of your unconscious mind. I'm really glad you brought this up, right? Because this is what you do with these women. You help them to really make sure that they're with the right gentleman, right? And to be with the right gentleman, they have to be the right woman. That means they have to really want to grow into who they want to be as a woman, so they then open up the door for the kind of man that they want. If we're not living to our highest expectation, if we're not living to our highest level of expression, then what we're doing is we're accepting status quo from ourselves. So consequently, the universe is going to give you status quo, dude. You don't want that. The higher level you hold yourself to, the more classy you become, the more elegant you become, the more feminine you become, the more connected spiritually or emotionally you become, the healthier you are going to be in the relationships, because of the way you're going to choose. So if you're going through this thought of, oh, I don't know if he's the right guy for you, check yourself first of all. Is that your unconscious mind saying, ooh, we could get hurt here, I'm seeing something, or I'm afraid that I'm going to open up my heart and I'm going to get hurt, so I'm going to look for something that's, oh, that's wrong with him, he's not the right guy, and then I run. Why am I running? Because I'm scared that I could get my heart broken again. And if that's the case, we want to absolutely 100% make sure that you are checking in with yourself. Are you thinking your thoughts, or are your thoughts thinking you? Is your unconscious mind saying, hey, look, I have one job. As your unconscious mind, my job is to identify possible pain points in the future and move you in the other direction. Why? Because I don't want you to get hurt, because hurt to me means that if you can hurt me, then you can kill me. And my whole job is to keep you alive. So we're going to go that way. It does not care whether or not you have a juicy, delicious, amazing love affair. It doesn't matter if you have a juicy, delicious life. It doesn't even care if you like your lunch. It just cares about, did you get some lunch? Did you get the sleep you need to survive? Are you warm enough to stay alive? And are there no dangers around you? And since we don't have the lions and tigers and bears so much anymore, right? Now what we have are the emotions: heartbreak, embarrassment, fear of loss, disappointment, frustration. These are the lions and the tigers and the bears, oh my, that the unconscious mind will take over and cause, and it'll snowball them into something that probably isn't even there. You get to ask yourself in those situations when you go, hey, I don't know if he's the right guy. You get to ask yourself, well, am I actually being the right person?
Yeah.
Am I pouring 100% in?
How am I showing up, and how is that a reflection of me? Yeah. And and the invitation too, and I think we're aligned here, is who do I need to be the right woman to then see the right man? Yes. Can I possibly see him as the right man? Is that possible?
Yeah, the problem is, Cindy, that people are legitimately afraid of their own power. Right? I distinctly remember, I'm going to tell you this story. I'm going to tell it myself a little bit. Years ago, maybe 10 years ago, right? A friend of mine came from Japan. I studied martial arts. A friend of mine came from Japan, taught at my dojo. There are a couple of other dojos in the Tucson area that that also teach what I teach. So, we came together for one day, and then he said, "Hey, look, I'm free tomorrow afternoon. If anybody wants to come, I'd love, for people to meet me here." I was the only person who showed up. I'm a little dude in a wheelchair, 4 feet tall in a wheelchair, right? 5'1", maybe if you stand me up. Can't even lift my arms. I was the only person who showed up. So we trained for about an hour and a half, and then I got on the short bus to come home, and I felt powerful, Cindy. I felt confident. I felt masculine. I felt empowered. I was just like, ooh, I love this. I was eating it up. And then I got scared. And then I was like, oh, I can't feel like this because this is ego. And if I feel like I've got this ego, then I could I could, interact with somebody using my ego. And that's not going to feel good, and I don't want to hurt or offend anybody. And I don't want to get attached to anything. So I shut down that sense of power. I went small again. Why? I gave up the power. When you stand, when you're classy, when you're elegant, when you're learning, when you're growing, when you're like, I'm living as the woman or the man that I want to live as, and I feel confident, and I feel empowered, and I feel alive, and I feel tingly, and I feel joyful, and I feel grateful, and I feel confident, and I can say no when I mean no, and yes when I mean yes, and not feel guilty about either of them. When you live in that state, and you can even see, maybe if you're watching, you can even see my my head is lifting. I just realized I was doing it. I'm not consciously doing that. That wasn't something that I consciously did. That was like literally when you start feeling like this, you start feeling really like confident. Now, this is where everybody thinks, oh, well, you're just hoity-toity. You're just arrogant, right? My nose is up in the air. I'm looking past everyone. Yeah, it can get that way. It can be potentially dangerous if you don't check it a little bit, right? But I was lifting my head because I was that level of confidence. If I get really spiritual, I can explain to you what's really going on, why we're doing that, right? Because we don't just stop here and like look down at other people. It's the continued process of being so filled with confidence, so filled with love, so filled with gratitude, so filled with empowerment that we literally drop our heads back. We're not looking down at people. We're looking up at the divine, opening our eyes and our mouth and our nose and our eyes and our ears, and the divine just pours down and through us, right? And we become incredibly empowered. The problem is the hoity-toity, like, oh, my nose is above you, is stopping at arrogance, right? Versus like, oh, I feel amazing. I feel lighter. Like I feel like I'm standing 2 inches taller. I feel like 2 inches broader as a man, right? My tummy feels like flatter as a lady, right? I feel like I got a little swag in my hips, right? And when you feel this way, what you do is you hold accountable yourself for the relationships and the way you communicate and interact with people. And that means that when you're high value, that energy is felt by a high value man or a woman.
Yeah.
You
Amen.
find people of like caliber.
Yeah. From that place, I don't really see it as ego. I see it more as empowerment and connection to self and your value, and that naturally makes you sit up taller and hold your head higher and your shoulders back, and that's that naturally creates a connection with the kind of individual that is truly aligned to you authentically. So I love it. I could go on and on.
Me too.
And I know that you, and we do get to end, but I know.
That's me deflating. The air in my balloon's like.
I know.
I love this stuff. I mean, I could literally talk with you and your followers for another hour or two, just because this stuff is juicy and delicious. Listen, it comes down to one thing. I know that you're about to wrap up, so let me say this. It really, ladies and whoever's watching, it comes down to one thing, really. Are you living at your highest level of authenticity? Being authentic is the noun. It's the noun, right? When you're living with integrity, that's your noun in action. That's your authenticity in action. Integrity is what you're doing with that authenticity. Start to let go of the things that don't work for you. Start to let go of the false beliefs and the old stories, because they're not yours. They're stories that your unconscious mind made up, and you, the conscious, you bought into. Let go of that. And when you start to let go, the more you let go, what you'll find is you'll be lifted up. The lighter you'll be, the more full you'll be, the more connected you'll be, the more aligned you will be, and the more true you will be. That's when you start finding people of higher caliber. That's when you really start to love your life. Don't settle.
Yeah, absolutely. So great message today, PJ. Thank you so much. And I know you've got a gift for the watchers and listeners out there. Do you want to share a little bit?
Faux show. Okay. So listen, I have an ebook that's, I don't know, it's like 117 pages. If you count the cover in the very back, it's like 109, 110 pages. It's an ebook. I couldn't stop. I went crazy. And it's called 5 Ways to Date Yourself and One Big Reason Why You Should. 5 Ways to Date Yourself and One Big Reason Why You Should. Please download it. It's super cool. Lots of pretty pictures in there. And you just simply go to 5 ways, the number 5 ways, WAYS .pjswisdom.com. So 5 WAYS .pjswisdom.com. Boom.
And we've got it posted too as well. So everyone can please access that. That's a super generous and amazing gift. And I know that this will definitely be supportive for the people that are on this journey and opening their hearts to their, stepping fully into what their vision is of creating and elevating their love life. So
and truthfully, right now at the end, as we're nearing the end of our quarantine, right now is the time to download this book and start dating yourself. We should have been dating ourselves the whole time during quarantine, but now is the time to start dating yourself. So as we start to really open up and start to reconnect with people, and everybody's looking for those connections now, right? Everybody's warmed up to getting warmed up. Then you're going to step out knowing who you are more because you've dated yourself a little. And you're like, you know what? I'm really glad I did that because it revealed some of my true character, some of my authenticity, so I can live with that integrity.
Right. And then date in real life from that vantage point as well.
Right. Yes.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, always a pleasure. And, ladies, gentlemen that have joined us too, here's to you. And, thank you for being a part of this broadcast, a part of your growth. And, I'm a stand for you and really creating the love and the life that you crave and desire. And you get to up level because that is what this show is all about. It's that energetic, physical up level. So thank you again, and we'll see everyone tomorrow.
Bye. Bye.